Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing. This week, we got a lot of cool stuff, including my already teased review of Poor Things. I finally got to see Yorgos Lanthimos' brand new film. Very excited to talk about it. But first, please do the rate and subscribe thing if you haven't already. It would be really appreciative on my end because I really want to see those follow numbers go up because that's pure validation right there. So let's get started. So Poor Things, I mean, nominated for 10 Academy Awards, I think. Or 11 Oscars. Ooh, that was close. All right, so let's get to Poor Things. Yorgos Lanthimos' new film. I am a super fan of this guy. I mean, Dogtooth, Alps, The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Favorite, and now we get to this film, a film that has now been nominated for 11 Academy Awards, including Best Actress for Emma Stone. And this is a big one for me to say because it's a hard year for actresses. There are so many great performances. Like, I love Lily Gladstone's performance a lot. I loved Margot Robbie's performance. I loved Annette Bening's performance because I am like a lifelong Annette Bening celebrator. Like, I guess they call them stans. I'm not really a stan, but I love Annette Bening. I think she's really great. But after seeing this movie, I feel like Emma Stone is like kind of like leagues above some of the other performances, and I really think Emma is going to take the Oscar this year. Her performance as Bella is just incredible. I mean, you're basically going from baby steps to a fully awakened woman by the end of the film, and it's such an incredible journey. And at the heart of it all, when it comes to best performances, I feel like one that embodies what cinema is to its core should be the one that gets celebrated. And I believe that's the same for this entire film from bottom to top. I mean, Yorgos Lanthimos has created something so vastly different than anything that has been put out before, and it's combining old techniques of old Hollywood and the way they shot in old Hollywood, the way they did sets and everything in old Hollywood, and combining it with the modern eye, as well as with Lanthimos's kind of selected style that he's brought to his films. As far as like when you're looking at The Lobster or Dogtooth and stuff, there's something kind of stilted in the performances, and I think that is something that he leaves by the wayside in this one, because I've already talked about Emma Stone, but I mean, Mark Ruffalo is doing stuff I've never seen him do as an actor before. Like, he basically takes every kind of fiber that you know of Mark Ruffalo as an actor and as a performer and just kind of casts that aside to bring this new and just wildly ego-driven character of Duncan that basically gets, I mean, driven mad by Bella. Bella! Sort of kind of spoiler territory, but that is the overarching thing. And then also you've got Willem Dafoe under a lot of makeup for this one, but it's still very much Willem Dafoe, and just delivering this interesting, fascinating performance that I think is only made better by a really great performance by Rami Youssef, who is just so funny in this one, because I feel like his character is almost kind of reacting to everything.
Bella, this is Mr. McCandles.
Hello, Bella.
Especially to Godfrey, which is Willem Dafoe's kind of mad scientist character. The two of them play so well off each other. I think it's amazing. I also have to mention there's a really small part for who I think is going to become a fast A-list actress, Margaret Qualley, who plays kind of a role that is very akin to Bella's character as well. And Gerard Carmichael's in this one, and just really great scenes with him in this one, and it's just a very important part of Bella's growth as a character, and I just absolutely loved it. Just all performance wise was incredible. The sets were beautifully like painted and constructed in sort of an old way that I thought was fascinating to look at. My co-host on After the Credits, Bill Harris, said that this is Lanthimos going Michel Gondry and Michel Gondry, and I think that that's kind of an interesting notion because it does hold out, especially if you know Gondry's work, and then you're as embellished and as ingrained as I am in Lanthimos's work, to see these two great filmmakers kind of collide within this movie, I think is really, really, really interesting. So on a technical standpoint, I really think that this film should earn all of the awards that it can. I will say that the film is raunchy, a little raw, lots of nudity, because sex is a big driving force to how this, to the main story of this film. So if you're not going to go into it with an open mind, you're not going to enjoy it. I mean, at my screening in Penticton, my wife and I saw a few walkouts happen, and it's just kind of like, what did you think you were getting into? People just go in blind, and I mean, I know Yorgos as a filmmaker, so I knew that this film was going to be crazy. But all in all, it's just an absolute masterpiece to me, and in every way. And it did bump. It bumped my number one, The Iron Claw, which I talked about on the Shift Heads podcast with Shane. It's part of the Stebbies. It was my number one. And even on my show After the Credits, I called it my number one. I hadn't seen this movie yet. It just nudged it out of the way. So nicely, but it nudged it out of the way. Such a great film. All right, so the next one is The Integrity of Joseph Chambers. This is a film that stars Clayne Crawford, who is sadly mostly known for getting famously fired off of his network television series Lethal Weapon. He was fired for bullying allegations.
That is not appropriate behavior, okay?
That was the one with Damon Wayans. He was then replaced by Sean William Scott. But the guy has done a lot of really great indie work. One of those films came out a few years ago in, I think it was 2019, I think it was 2019, The Killing of Two Lovers. A really, really great film that he did with the writer and director of that film. His name is Robert Machoyan. Robert Machoyan. I'm probably butchering that name, but that's who he's reunited for this film. And this is an interesting film basically about like an insurance adjuster, accountant guy who decides that he needs to build up his survival skills for his family and for the betterment of his position as the man of the house.
It's my hunting look.
And decides to go off into the woods to go for a little deer hunt by himself, completely untrained and unaware.
Can I borrow your rifle?
You need ammo?
Nah, I bought some. Sorry.
Is driven to just do it, to be a man. And he is not that dude. It's kind of like if I went into the forest to go hunting by myself with no other knowledge of what exactly to do. And there are like things that like endear you to this character. Like he's really kind of like a goofball at heart. I mean, in the beginning, he's shaving his beard into like a hunter's mustache, and it's a big deal to him to have this manly stoic mustache. And it goes so far as like he's in the forest, kind of bored, waiting for stuff, and he starts singing like a Mustache Man song.
I'm the Mustache Man. I'll catch it. I'll kill it any way I can.
And I'm like, for me, it's something super relatable because it's something dumb that I probably would do in my boredom of just waiting out in nature, waiting for an animal to come out so I can blow it away, I guess. Maybe that's not like me. I don't feel like blowing away any animals personally. I think integrity is the big word to be used in this movie because Crawford's character is trying to infuse himself with a false integrity that he is the man, this man of the woods.
The whole point of this was I could take care of my family. My wife didn't even want me to come out here today.
And as soon as he gets out there, as soon as he gets out of his element, and as soon as he gets a little anxious and stuff, He ends up making a mistake that becomes massively costly to the rest of his life and the rest of his existence. And of course, the overarching of what his family is going to feel about him gets called into question. And I think the way the movie spirals out is really, really interesting, especially in a character setting. And Crawford is so damn good in this role. It's really sad that it's such an indie film that I think, unless it arrives on some kind of streaming service with a little bit of push behind it, people are going to ignore this movie. But I really liked it, and I think people should check out The Integrity of Joseph Chambers.
Hold it!
Next up is a pressure cooker thriller that was sent to me by Wellgo USA on Blu-ray. It is called Your Lucky Day. It stars Angus Cloud in his second to last performance on screen. Sadly, he died of a drug overdose late summer in 2023. So is this and Abigail, which is the Radio Silence vampire monster movie that's coming out in April, are his last films. And it's a real bummer because I'm not well versed in Euphoria. I've watched the first episode. I've seen Angus Cloud's character in that, but it wasn't enough to get kind of a real feel for him as an actor. But Your Lucky Day has a good thread of Angus on screen, and he definitely has the chops, has the charisma, and his eyes. He just has very interesting eyes that you just really pay attention to his performance. And it's sad that he never got a chance to flourish or to grow as an actor, and that the passing of his father and then a subsequent drug overdose ended his Hollywood dreams so quickly. So it's a real bummer. But he's kind of the main actor in this one, the most known one. I mean, Spencer Garrett is in this one. He's appeared in a lot of television and movies. Jason Wiles, who I know from Third Watch, he plays a cop in this one, and I thought that was fascinating because I really don't know a lot of that Jason Wiles has done since Third Watch, but I freaking loved Third Watch. I thought it was such a great show. To see any alumni from that show appear in something, I kind of geek out about it. And the other actor in this is Jason O'Mara, who is an actor that's been in a bunch of stuff. He was on a TV series called Terra Nova, which I really enjoyed. And he was the voice of Batman in a bunch of the DC Comics animated universe stuff for Warner Brothers. But it's an interesting story about, it all takes place basically in and around a convenience store, and down on his luck, Angus Cloud's character is in the store at the time that a guy, an asshole of a guy, is checking a lottery ticket. Turns out to be the big mega ball. I think it's $173 million ticket is won. And so Angus McCloud's character decides to take it on himself to rob the store and take the ticket. Of course, things go real bad and deaths happen real quick. And I mean, it's a pretty solid little thriller at the start. It kind of comes unglued here and there and feels a bit messy to a little bit of a cliched ending that I thought could have been tightened up a bit, but it's still a pretty largely entertaining watch. And yeah, it's just a bummer that Angus McCloud had to pass away. Like because this would be an interesting stepping stone, I think, for him. And then to go from this to Radio Silence's new film, which I am so excited for, would have been that extra boost. You know, it got Samara Weaving a bit of boost after Ready or Not. Horror generally is can kind of be a good stepping stone, so a little bummed on that one. But it was written and directed by Daniel Brown, and this is based on a 2010 short film that he did. So this took over a decade to get fully realized into a big feature film. So good on him for that. It's some great start for a gritty crime writer. And I think Dan Brown might make something really interesting next time. And hopefully he won't get confused with the guy that wrote all those Da Vinci Code books. All right, so moving on, let's get to another Well Go USA release. I have 3 of them this week. I have so many of them this week. But this was a screener sent to me. It's called I Did It My Way. This is like kind of a Departed-esque, Infernal Affairs-esque drama thriller, a very soapy drama thriller, which begins my problems with it. It's a Chinese film, it stars Andy Lau, which is really interesting because I just brought up the Infernal Affairs reference, but he plays kind of the right hand of a mob boss.
做咩仲玩到咁大？
我選擇唔答你。
Who are dealing with a mole inside their organization, because of course they are, and that's the other lead of the film. And once Andy Lau's boss is killed, he assumes control of the entire mob and just kind of like does a fire search through his organization to find who the mole is. I'm a really big fan of Andy Lau. Like, I love House of Flying Daggers, and of course, like I said, Infernal Affairs 1, 2, and 3. I recently watched him in The Wandering Earth Part 2, which is the prequel to Wandering Earth, which I wish I knew and I would have watched him in the other order because I ended up watching them both. But I mean, I've watched over 2 hours of Andy Lau previously and then watched another 2 hours of him here. This is definitely the lesser one. It is so soapy. It's trying to be cool with the stylish editing and CG editing and drone shots and everything, and it's just not. It's just messy, cliched, largely boring, and a lot of patches. And I couldn't get over how corny some of it is. And I know the Chinese films love to languish in the melodrama and the soapiness, but sometimes it just loses itself in translation and just comes out like a big old wet fart. So I just felt like it was largely a waste of time when I got to the end of this film. Also, another thing that they love to do in this movie, and I think it's part of their showing of a power trip, is there's a lot of moments of people just staring off into a city vista on top of a building, and it makes no sense. It's not really that cool looking, and I get it. You guys got drones. You guys want to keep using drones in the CG editing. I get it. Enough already. Like, we can only watch a pensive Andy Lau on a rooftop so many times in a film before we're just wondering why we keep doing this. And there's, I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional, but there's a lot of homoerotic moments.
Erotic. What?
Erotic.
Between Andy Lau's character and the character that gets revealed to be the mole. And as far as I know, this is a very hetero movie. Like, both characters are married. They both got kids. There's not a gay storyline to be seen in this film, and they do not push this at all. But it feels very gay, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if that was just the skew of what they wanted to do with this film. But it's a little weird, and the way that they don't address it more and more in the movie just makes it weirder and weirder, and just go with it. If Andy Lau's character is gay in this, fine, go with it. It would have made it more interesting, I think. All right, and one last one from Welgo is Wolfpack. This one's got Max Zhang, who is in the Ip Man movies the Ip Man movies that didn't star Donnie Yen. He's in those ones. He's also in Pacific Rim Uprising and The Grand Master. And this is just like a really bland mercenaries versus terrorists movie.
30吗？不远。我可不是佣兵。
That has a lot of little twists here and there, but none of it matters if you don't give a crap about any of the characters, which is a big fault in this one. Again, a Chinese film, so it's over sappy, over soapy, and the melodrama just strangles it every time. As far as the fight scenes go and the action scenes go, I mean, just like in I Did It My Way, there are some great action sequences. In that film, they go on too long. In this film, all the great action sequences are in like the first 2/3 of the film, leaving the last part of the film to just kind of be kind of dull, and none of it works. I was kind of looking at the display time being like, okay, is this movie going to be over anytime soon? And I mean, it's only clicking at like an hour and 30, I want to say, for this one. So it's not keeping you for the long run, but it still feels kind of long. Let's move on to, I think, an award-worthy movie that came out in 2023. I didn't get around to my screener when this originally came out, but I did now. The film is called Kokomo City, and it follows black trans sex workers, and kind of has a few of these workers just basically telling their experience. So we get a lot of stories about between them and clients, how they're perceived in the black community, in their own community, the backlash that they've received. It even delves into a lot of perceived black heterosexual on the surface activity, and how a lot of these men will gravitate towards the trans community.
I think that, like, even when I think about my experience as a black trans woman and how, you know, most black women think, you know, that their husbands aren't sleeping with us, that their husbands aren't attracted to us, but they're the first ones that when they see us, they'll call us out and say that we're beautiful.
And just a lot of eye-opening stuff told in a really, really interesting way, and a protected way, because I feel like the writer and director of this film, D. Smith, really has a deep care for this community and a deep care to get these stories and to project them in the right light. And with all of the vitriol and everything that's come against the trans community, it's interesting to see a film that's contained within that community to talk about some of the negativity and some of the bad things within it, but to come out of it with such a positive message and a positive reinforcement and a positive care towards this community. Because I mean, it just feels like a large part of the world is coming with pitchforks, and it's horrible, and I hate to see it, but that's why we need to celebrate films like this that elevate it and try to tell the story and make it relatable, or at least educate you so that you feel like you can relate more to it. I will say the final shot in this movie is going to push a lot of boundaries for people, because there are a lot of illusions and even like on-screen shots of, without nudity, seeing oral sex or seeing gay and trans sex and everything, but there is a full frontal nudity scene right before the credits that I think will be shocking to a lot of people. But I think it only does anything to heighten the message and not diminish it. And I think it's an incredible film, and I think D. Smith did something really brave and really great with this film. And it's short too. It's like an hour and 22, so it's a short jump for sure, but well worth it. And I think it's almost required viewing, but like I said, some of the stuff make it hard sell in that sense. Let's do some television now. New on Prime Video, we have another Nicole Kidman series. So she did the 9 Perfect Strangers. So this will be her second Prime Video series. Because I don't think she was in that Little Fires Everywhere with the Reese Witherspoon one. I don't think she was in that one. So this is her second one. Expats is written and directed by Lulu Wang, who I didn't know. As soon as I started watching it, I didn't know that she was involved in it. I really love her work because she did The Farewell with Awkwafina, which I think is an incredible film and one of the must-see films of that year. It's such a well done and beautifully shot film, and made me look at Awkwafina in a whole new dramatic light. I thought she was really good in it. But Lulu Wang's script and her direction were a big part of why I loved The Farewell, and it immediately became why I was interested in this series. So basically you have a multitude of characters living in Hong Kong, most of them from other countries. And Nicole Kidman's character is married to a Chinese man, but there seems to be a rift between them, an impending divorce, an impending fall from grace of her husband, and she finds herself lost in a strange land that she's been calling home for years. And there's like, she's kind of the head of it all. I don't want to give too much, because this show is all about the reveals, is all about the character reveals, and giving you a template human being in the first minute, and then totally shading in all the grays around them. And I think that is a fascinating way to tell a story. We're not doing any time jumps or anything here. We're just plucking you right in the center of people at the beginning of the inception of their problems, and seeing where they go. I will say, I thought it was interesting, Jack Houston's in this one, and I like Jack Houston a lot, have for a long time, but especially as Richard Harlow in the Boardwalk Empire series, like, that's probably my favorite role of him. He seems, I don't know if he's been putting on weight in reality, or if he put on weight for the series, but I honestly didn't even recognize him, because he's got a bit of a punch, and he's got, a bit of the bigger neck and everything. And I was like, holy crap, is that former heartthrob Jack Houston?
We're married.
Of the Houstons, like, he's Hollywood royalty. Like, I guess he would be John Houston's grandson, because Danny Houston is John Houston's son. I'm gonna have to get Chloe to figure out the lineage on that one, maybe. But it's going to definitely be a slow burn series with all of these actors. It's a quick one. It's only 6 episodes. So one and done, I believe, because I don't think we're going to see a second season of Expats at all. But I'm really excited to see Lulu Wang have a new project. So I'm really interested to dig into the rest of this series. Let's head to Netflix for the next one. Coming after Masters of the Universe Revelation, which is Kevin Smith doing an adult updated animated follow-up to the original series that I grew up on as a kid.
By the power of Grayskull.
So all of those kids that grew up with that show, he made this show, which is like almost dealing with the years past and the consequences of Adam's Secret, of, Grayskull, of the long battle and the long war between him and Skeletor.
I can't remember when I've had a more pleasant day.
And then when certain secrets are revealed, it ends up crashing the whole world around everybody. And that's what leads to Masters of the Universe Revolution. So yeah, I was automatically on board because Kevin Smith is a producer and the writer of this show, and the casting. I was all about the casting. Like, at the head of it all, I would be remiss if I didn't start with saying that Mark Hamill plays Skeletor, which is freaking perfect. I mean, Mark Hamill is one of my favorite voice actors of all time, just purely for his voicing of the Joker on the Batman animated series. But his Skeletor is like, feels like a definitive version of Skeletor now to me. He does such a great job with this one.
I know where my talents lie. On the throne of Eternos. Time for a revolution.
And of course, Jay Muse and a bunch of other Genesis Rodriguez and a bunch of other Kevin Smith alumni showed up on that original series. There have been some adjustments to the voices for Revolution. Tila is not voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar anymore. Now it's Melissa Benoist, which is another Kevin Smith connection because he directed multiple episodes of her show Supergirl. And instead of Alicia Silverstone as Queen Marlena, it's now Gates McFadden. Dr. Crusher is Queen Marlena. So there have been a little changes here and there to the cast. But we got, I mean, there's so many cool people in this one, like classic people. I mean, Shatner's in this. William Shatner is in this series. Now, Keith David, the old silver throat himself, Keith David with the most iconic voice. So of course he's got to show up and do a voice in a Masters of the Universe cartoon. Killer stuff. I really like the storyline that they're telling in this one. I like that they're not pandering to try to be a childish series. They know who the fans that are coming for this one. You know what? I think Kevin Smith really has it down pat. So I'm excited to finish the rest of this series. I got it a few days early thanks to my connections at Netflix. But yeah, I'm excited to cruise on through the rest of them. All right, let's hit some geek outs this week. New on Blu-ray, Joe's Apartment from 1996. This is actually the first MTV film ever made and ever released. Jerry O'Connell starred in this one. It was written and directed by John Payson, his one and only film. He never made another film after this, which is kind of sad because, yeah, the movie bombed at the time.
We came up with Ralph.
Give me a kiss, babe.
But watching it again, and I loved it at the time when it came out. I loved it when I rewatched it again in the 90s. In the 2000s. And I liked it again when I watched it on Blu-ray. I think it's so much fun. It's so goofy. Never takes itself seriously for a second. Megan Ward is a really great it girl to be the co-lead with Jerry O'Connell in this. Jerry O'Connell is so lovable. He still is absolutely lovable, and I adore him in this movie so much. And it's crazy to know that the CG films for this one, all the roaches, were done by the same computer. It was done on the same computer that did Terminator 2, Judgment Day, The Abyss, Jurassic Park. Heck, even South Park did their first handful of seasons on the same computer. But it's interesting to see that all of these have the connection with Joe's Apartment. Also, there's a Roach chorus group in this one, and I find it funny to know that they're voiced by the Carmen Sandiego a cappella group, Rockapella. So for all of you 80s and 90s kids like me, Rockapella, ladies and gentlemen. I was going to try to break into a little Carmen Sandiego, but I will spare you that. That just sounds horrible, even me saying it.
Let him sing!
I also wanted to mention that this is the debut of voice actor Billy West. Billy West is known for playing Fry on Futurama. Absolutely adore that guy. And in this same year, he would also get to do Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny for Space Jam, which also came out in 1996. So there's a connection there. All right. So my second one of the week is Rover Dangerfield. And I had a misconception about this movie. I remember this movie coming out. I saw it when I saw it on video when it came out. But when I was remembering it, I thought it was a Don Bluth movie, but it doesn't have any connection to Don Bluth whatsoever. It is just a Universal produced animated film. And it was developed by Rodney Dangerfield and Harold Ramis in the 80s. And it was developed to be like a rude and crude adult movie. So then when they finally got to make the movie in 1993, the studio decided, let's make it a kids movie, which makes absolutely no sense because a lot of the reviews complained that the movie was trying to be blue but wasn't able to be blue. And it's like, yeah, because it's written and starring Rodney Dangerfield. Why did you think that this would be made for kids at all? The only thing that he slightly made for kids was the movie Ladybugs. And there are issues in Ladybugs that I think don't make it really a kids movie. So it's just, go figure that this was going to bomb because you projected it to the wrong audience. But you know what? It's actually kind of a funny movie. It has some good laughs to it. And it's short. It's an hour and 14 minutes, probably because it was supposed to be more adult film before and probably be roughly around an hour 35, an hour 40. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting movie that, as Rodney Dangerfield said in his book, the studio buried like a bone and nobody saw it. But I remember seeing it on VHS in the 90s, so at least made it into my eyes. But yeah, I would have loved to see like a rated R, like a Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights push on it. Even that was PG-13. Why not? Why not push for the boundaries? But I think this was in a time where studios were just like, unless you're Ralph Bakshi, animated movies are for kids, which is certainly not true in this day and age, right? All right, I'll just kind of quickly go over this one. They sent me Magnum P.I., the complete series. This is not the Magnum P.I. that you know with Tom Selleck, the old one from the 80s. This is the newer one, 5 seasons that aired on CBS, was canceled, resurrected on NBC, and then canceled again, starring Jay Hernandez without a mustache. Isn't Magnum supposed to have a mustache?
I'm the mustache man.
He's Thomas Magnum. Thomas Magnum has a mustache. Like, it's part of the iconography that he would just, like, if there was an emoji of Magnum PI, it would have a mustache. Like, I'm a little weirded out by that, but I really like Jay Hernandez. Perdita Weeks, who plays the Higgins of this series.
It's Higgins.
What?
The name is Higgins.
What's your name?
Tattoo.
They did like what they did with Elementary, and where they swapped Watson to be a woman, and it was Lucy Liu. Survived for 7 seasons, did really well. And now they swapped Higgins for Perdita Weeks. Now it's Juliette Higgins, and I think it works too. So they did do a little gender swapping, and largely it works. And I enjoyed her. I really hadn't seen her in anything before, or that I remember, because apparently she was in Ready Player One and As Above, As Below, As Above, So Below, which I really, really liked. But I mean, none of the actors really like became super memorable to me, except for the one from Mad Men. Ugh, and I've lost it now, but he's in that movie anyway. But the one that excites me in this one is Zachary Knighton's in this one, plays one of the supporting characters, and every time I see him on screen, I'm like, I just really wish that you just went back to happy endings and played Dave again and just was a big old goofball, because I adore happy endings. I think it's one of my favorite comedy shows of all time. And if there was a reboot that needed to be done, that would be the one. ABC, Disney Plus, whoever has the rights, just do it now. But every time I see him show up in the show, I'm like, you're better as Dave, man. You're better as Dave. I just don't know. Seeing him in an action show is just kind of weird. And I do recognize that he was in the remake of The Hitcher and has done other things besides comedy, but I don't know. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I also think it's interesting to point out that this Magnum PI takes place in the same universe as NCIS, Hawaii Five-0, and what was the other one? Scorpion and MacGyver. All CBS shows. The CBS verse, or the Les Moonves verse, which is probably not a good name, seeing as he ran the network, but was let go for huge sexual harassment charges. So I'll still call it the Moonves verse, because some of it sucks. Next up, I'm going to geek out hardcore about The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 on 4K, because it's on glorious Steelbook. And if you don't know this already, you will get to know this as more and more you watch these videos. I freaking love the Steelbooks. They're so gorgeous. The artwork is always so cool. I have a separate section for them up in my collection, and I fawn over them all the time because I'm a freaking nerd. But they're really cool. I have always been, ever since the DVDs started doing the Steelbooks, and I think one of the first ones I got was Live Free and Die Hard, I've just gravitated towards them. If there was a Steelbook to be had of said movie, I would go for it. But this is The Mandalorian, so of course this is the only way to own it is in these Steelbook formats, besides streaming it on Disney Plus. So it was almost like it was a gift totally tailor-made for me. But I don't know. I think The Mandalorian is the coolest thing to come out of modern Star Wars. I mean, this is your Wild West gunslinger version of the Star Wars universe, done with the voice of Pedro Pascal, the internet's daddy. And I mean, everything about the show looks cool. I love all the characters. Like, I love Ming-Na playing Fennec Shand. Carl Weathers as Greef Karga is really, really great in this one. Even though she's a shitty person, Cara Dune is okay. Gina Carano is a shitty person, but Cara Dune is a great character. I really, really enjoy that character. And then you got the Oliphant coming in season 2. Like, there's so much good stuff about this show, and I could infinitely watch it over and over and over again. And now to have it in 4K and, again, a glorious 2 steelbooks. Yeah, I'm all about this. So now I'm just wondering, where's Andor? Where's Obi-Wan? Where's where's Ahsoka? Is that coming on 4K Steelbook Blu-ray? Like, heck, where's season 3? Why did we get 1 and 2? We didn't get 3. We don't have Book of Boba Fett. Like, let's get a rolling on these Steelbooks. But coincidentally, I will say that it was released at the same time as WandaVision, which I talked about last week, and Loki, which I have yet to buy, but will, because it's Steelbook, and I want them, all of them. I also want to bring up that I bought another season of Family Guy. I bought Volume 5. Again, they're all like $11 on eBay, and either eBay or Amazon. They both are roughly around the same price point. But this is the last Lucy one that I'm getting, because now I'm going to start buying them in the 5-volume sets, which are roughly about $25 to $30 a set. So, but there's 5 in there, so I'm by the end of the year, I'll probably have the entire released series, and I'm a freaking nerd for that. Still the third best major adult comedy on TV, animated style, of the big 3. It'll be 3. I goes South Park, Simpsons, Family Guy in my mind. I'm talking the big 3. But I digress. Anyway, my last geek out I'm going to talk about this week is Spike Lee's School Days, which is on 4K in a 35th anniversary edition. This is the second film that he ever put out, second feature film that he ever put out. It's got all of that same vitriol and anger and pointed message, but it's a little bit messier. It's a little bit like a sloppy cake. But you can see all of Spike's attributes are there. They're just in their infancy, and they're just getting going. Really great performances from Lawrence Fishburne in this one, Tisha Campbell, and also Giancarlo Esposito. Basically your main villain for a lot of things these days in TV and movies, as just a young, fresh-faced boy in this one, and he's really, really good. I love Giancarlo Esposito. I have loved everything he's in, and I love his connection with Spike Lee, because he's been in basically everything that Spike Lee makes, and he's just a phenomenal actor, and you can kind of see the inception at the very beginning. And I kept thinking about Clockers a lot when I was watching this movie for some reason. A Spike Lee movie that I feel gets lost in the shuffle of a great career. But this is a joint that looks real great on 4K. I will say that. And it's really funny that he was making this film because he got kicked off a lot of campuses while making this film, because they were kind of realizing the type of film he was making, and it wasn't exactly pro colleges or pro universities. And as far as the cast goes, I also wanted to mention that this is also the debut of Jasmine Guy, who I love because I'm a huge fan of the series Dead Like Me that aired on Showtime. I adore her on that show. She's my favorite character on that show, besides Mandy Patinkin, who's really great. But love me some Jasmine Guy. She's so fantastic. Oh, and a funny thing as I was watching this is this movie ends with the phrase, "Wake up!" being shouted. And "Wake up!" is how Do the Right Thing starts, which is a Criterion film. Quickly, I wanted to bring up that I finally got around to and finished Chernobyl. I got a 4K edition sent to me by HBO on that one. Craig Mazin produced this series, was the showrunner for this one. I'm pretty sure this 5-episode series was what got him the adaptation of The Last of Us, which is an absolutely killer adaptation. But Chernobyl is a horror film wrapped in a thriller, wrapped in a biopic about just a disturbing disaster that has global ramifications still to this day. And I mean, it happened a few months before my sister was born in 1986. So yeah, I was not even 5 years old when this disaster happened, and I really dug this show. I devoured it. Jared Harris and Stellan Skarsgård play such an interesting pair that are trying to figure out this crisis and trying to contain it and contain the amount of lives lost, while a reckless government does everything they can to undermine them at every turn, to a point that they're still doing. There's still records, like the record. They say that the Chernobyl disaster only claimed 31 lives as a Russian official statistic, which is just insane to me when you think about it. Just insane stuff. But besides Harris and Stellan, you got Emma Watson in this one, who I always love. Jessie Buckley, who is great in everything she does. I don't think she's capable of giving a bad performance. And even Barry Keoghan for one episode, going around shooting dogs in the city for a really harrowing episode. Like, this show is not for the weak of heart. I mean, my wife tapped out after episode 1. She was done. It's just, it is heavy. It is heavy. It'll leave scorch marks on your soul, but it is a really interesting watch, and I think people should absolutely check it out, because it's part of that HBO prestige stuff, in my opinion. I mean, even the final episode on its own, which is kind of going through the court procedural of the disaster and giving the public and the government the bullet points of what happened, but using that to also tell the beginning story of how the disaster came to be, is bold storytelling to do in a final episode. And Craig Mazin and company just knocked this show out of the park. All right, so that is all this week on What the Hell Should I Watch? Next week, I'm going to lead off with the brand new Matthew Vaughn film, Argylle. Big cast in this one: Henry Cavill, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, John Cena, Samuel L. Jackson, Dua Lipa.
Too many people! Stop with the people!
But the big question, and I'll answer it next week, was this film written by Taylor Swift? Is Taylor Swift Ellie Conway? The book that this movie is based on hasn't even been released. So is this a big reveal that we're going to get for all the Swifties this week? Is this a crazy conspiracy theory? Am I off my rocker? What is going on here? Anyway, we'll get down to the business of that all next week. Thank you, everybody, for checking out this episode. You can find my website, stevestebbing.ca. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Yeah, Letterboxd and Threads. Oh, yeah, all of them. At the Stevel Dead. You can find my episodes also on the shiftheads.ca, on also the Shiftheads Facebook group. You can find my group in Facebook as well, just by searching Steve Stebbing. Please like and subscribe this video. I'm super clunky this week on giving all my socials and all that stuff, but I don't know. I had a lot to talk about, and now I'm just running out of it. Thank you, everybody, for checking out the video this week, and we'll catch you next week.